Welcome to episode 83 of the Golf Rules Questions podcast. We have a huge podcast in store for you. We finally get to the myths of golf rules that we've been talking about for a couple of weeks now. And Stuart gives us an update on his recent tournament at the New South Wales Open up at Rich River. So listen into your favourite Rules of Golf podcast, the Golf Rules Questions podcast now. Golf is a test of character before it is a test of skill. And playing by the rules of golf will definitely test your character. Hey everyone, welcome to the GRQ podcast with Blakey and my co-host Stuart, Podcast McPhee. Hello, podcast.
Hi Blakey, how are you? Is that a new nickname?
It is a new nickname given to you whilst you're up at the Play Now, Play Anytime, Play something. New South Wales Open at Rich River. So, yeah, it sounds like you had a bit of fun up there.
Yeah, it was a great event. Great finish, good crowds on the weekend, despite the 38 degrees on Saturday, which was a little bit unpleasant. But a great experience, great event, great finish. Unfortunate for the player who effectively lost it on the last hole. But yeah, great event, and certainly a fair share of rulings as well that we may get to.
Yeah, we'll get to them after we do our GRQOTW and our myths. We've been talking about doing a podcast on myths for a while, and so we're finally going to get to them. Now, the GRQOTW for last week, for 82, I found very difficult. So we're going to go through and try and give a correct answer out to the listeners. Do you want to roll through the question?
Yes, Marcela plays her second shot on the par 5 second hole at Wombat Hills, and the ball heads way right towards a boundary fence and appears to land in thick grass. As Marcela is not sure if she will find the ball or even if it will be in bounds, she correctly announces and drops a provisional ball in the fairway. After dropping, but before playing that ball, a homeowner on the other side of the fence relays to some spotters that the original ball has come to rest on the course and is in thick, tall grass. Marcela is advised of this information. Not wanting to search for her ball in the long grass, Marcela chooses to complete the hole with the dropped ball. After holding out, Marcela asks a referee on the next tee about her previous hole. Are there any penalty strokes? What is the ruling?
Well, in my mind, the ruling is Marcela hasn't done anything wrong, and the strokes played with the provisional ball account, and that was the correct ball to finish out with. But it all depends on if this homeowner has actually knows exactly where the spot of the ball is, or they're just saying it's in the long grass. I mean, they sounded pretty definitive about it being in the long grass as if they knew exactly where the ball was. So in my mind, we just need to find out a little bit more information. If they did know exactly where the ball was, then Marcela had already dropped and had the intention to play a provisional ball. So I think she can continue to play that provisional ball because this homeowner's seen a ball, but is it Marcela's actual ball? We don't know that. I mean, if Marcela said, it's Titleist 5 with a red line and 2 hearts, and the homeowner said, yes, that's exactly what it is, then the ball is there. There's no allowance to play a provisional ball. But if it was just it's a ball, I saw it, I think it's yours, then obviously Marcela can play a provisional ball. Then, once she's played a provisional ball, if there is a ball to identify, Marcela must take the reasonable steps or reasonable effort to identify it. And if she doesn't, then there's the potential that she's going to play a wrong ball in the provisional ball and hole out with the wrong ball and be disqualified if she tees off on the next hole. So we just need to find out more information about whether a ball has been found is the most important thing. Or it's just, I saw it definitely go into the thick grass. I don't know exactly where it is, but it's definitely in the thick grass. Then Marcela can play the provisional ball, continue with the provisional ball and not even search. And that will be the correct ball. What do you think of that?
Yeah, all good. I think one of the things that I've learned from you and one or two others is the skill of gathering more information. And you've summed that up correctly, that I think if you were that referee on the next tee, Marcela probably wouldn't give you enough information. You would need to find out more. And you've explained that in your answer then, that you would have to go, hang on, was a ball found? And they're going to say, no, the guy just said it was in that area. Okay, well, that's okay because the ball hasn't been found. In that case, as you said, Marcela has proceeded correctly. But if a ball was found and they were like had highs on it and a spotter's gone over and gone, yeah, that's definitely a ball. I think that's hers. Or even if I don't think it's hers, it's definitely a ball. Then I think Marcela may have an issue that she may need to correct. But yeah, you're the referee on the next tee and you're just gathering more information so you can make that assessment on what she needs to do to correct it or if she's okay.
I found one part of this extremely interesting, trying to read 14.4 about putting a ball, or 14.6 and 14.4 about dropping your ball. And say Marcela says, I'm dropping a provisional ball or playing a provisional ball, drops the ball into the correct area. It's all in the correct spot. Everything's right. And then they find out that her ball is, they find out where exactly her ball is. Does she have to pick up her provisional ball because she's not allowed to play it, or because she dropped it with the intention for it to be a provisional ball, can she still play it as a provisional ball? I'm thinking that if it's definitely known that her ball's up there in bounds, and if she plays that ball, it can't be a provisional ball.
Right.
But I'm thinking if there is a ball up there and it hasn't been identified as her ball, she can still play the provisional ball, but then after she plays it, she has to go and, or, after she gets to that area, she has to go and make a reasonable effort to identify whether it is her ball or not.
Yeah, and look, the opening of 18.3 uses the word save time. And you and I have just spoken recently about pace of play and to save time. And I think Marcela, oh, look, it could be my ball. Look, I'm happy to go and look at it, but I'm just going to hit this provisional just in case. Do I want to walk back 200 metres and proceed under stroke and distance after searching for 3 minutes? Look, let me just hit this now. I'll hit this provisional. We haven't identified that ball. So I just save time just in case. And I think that's okay.
It's a pretty good way to look at it too, because if you did know it was that was the ball, then, and it was in bounds, then playing a provisional is not saving time. Playing under stroke and distance is permitted, but playing a provisional ball when you know your ball was up there in bounds is not saving time. So that's a good way of looking at it. All right, I think we've gotten through that one. Now we're going to, for episode 83, we're going to roll over some myths. Now I think I've got 7 written down here. We probably have, you could probably make a bigger list than this, but we're going to start with myths. This will be the first of many episodes, I'd say, for myths. If you do have a myth, get on the Clubland Stories Google form, write it in there, and we'll definitely cover it. We've got some good Clubland stories in there that we'll cover next week on episode 84, but we've been talking about this for a while. So myths. Number 1, marking your ball when the preferred lies local rule is in play. Now, this used to be a thing. So you don't have to mark your ball when you are taking a preferred lie. When preferred lie E3 is being adopted by the committee, you don't have to mark your ball. I'm not saying don't. I'm saying it's a great idea. You should. But the myth is that you have to, and that's not true. If E2 local rule has been adopted, cleaning ball, then you must, because you're replacing the ball in the exact same spot from which you lifted. That right, Stuart?
Yeah, and I was just saying you could extend that just not to preferred lies, but to any relief procedure. If you're not replacing the ball on the spot and you're putting it in play somewhere else on the course, you don't need to mark the ball before you lift it. As you say, it doesn't mean you don't have to, and it can be a good practice to do that, but you don't have to. If you're taking unplayable, you could put you could mark the reference point with a tee and, put a tee right next to where the ball is currently at rest. But you don't need to. All that may be good practice. That's as you say, if you need to replace it on the spot, you must always mark the spot of your ball, even if it's not on the putting green, anywhere on the course.
All right. Have you got a myth that you want to talk about?
Related to that one or anyone?
No, anyone.
Oh, sorry, just with that, I should say we talk about good practice. If you're taking relief from a cart path, for example, and people go, do I need to mark, I've had it just on the weekend, do you need to mark the spot of the ball before you lift it? And I'll say, no, you don't need to do that. But it can be a good practice because let's say you do lift the ball and then something distracts you and then you go, hang on, I need to find the nearest point of complete relief. Where was my ball again? And it can be very easy you won't be miles off, but it's just good practice to have your tee down there so you know exactly where you were so you can identify that nearest point of complete relief. Another way of doing that is, of course, rather than putting a tee down beside your ball, put a tee down where your nearest point of complete relief is, so your reference point, then you can lift your ball. But as you say, you don't have to mark a spot of your ball before lifting it if you're going to put it somewhere else. This is probably one of my favourite ones, and that is, because it's happened to me plenty of times where, I hit way too many provisional balls in the first place. But, you hit your ball down the left, into the trees and go, guys, I'm just going to proceed under 18.3. I'm just going to play this ball provisionally. I'm just going to play this ball just in case I can't find that original ball. And you put it on the tee, and sure enough, someone goes, what's that ball? As in, what's the ball I'm about to hit? And I'll say, it's a provisional ball. I'll say, no, what is it? What is it? They think you must identify it to distinguish it from the original ball, which is somewhere out on the course. And I think that is a common myth, that you can't hit that provisional until you make it very clear to everybody, including your marker, that one was a Titleist 2 with my black line. This is a Titleist 77, right, with my black line. I think that's a very common myth. Do you have any thoughts on that one?
Yes. Again, it's something that's a good idea too, but you're not going to get penalised if you don't do it. So if you don't tell us what the second ball is, you're not going to get penalised. However, you could get penalised if you can't differentiate between the first ball and the second ball, or the first ball and the provisional ball. If you can't work out which one's which, then you get to take one of them in most cases, and that is your provisional ball.
Yeah, so the way I look at that is you as a player are taking on that risk.
Yeah, that's right.
And if they end up 5 centimeters away from each other and you cannot, as you say, you can't identify which is which, you're in trouble. But you took that risk on.
Yeah. And yeah, that's right. So there's no penalty for not announcing what type of ball you're using, but it could be a penalty, and that's on you. That's the risk on you.
And I do see this at the professional level where you see, the scorecards get handed out and they get changed around amongst the 2-ball or the 3-ball, and they will go over to Ralph, who he's playing with, and go, mate, I just play a tailor-made. It's got a 7, it's got my red dots on it. Oh, yeah, I'm playing a Titleist 2. It's quite common that happens on the first tee, even though there's no requirement to do that. But I often say about when someone says, oh, what's your provisional ball? I go, well, I didn't tell you what my original ball is.
Yeah.
So there's no requirement to do that. So why is there a requirement to identify my provisional ball?
Yeah, so just when you're playing with Stuart, just watch out. When I play with Stuart, every time I play with Stuart, we'll be searching for my ball.
Not often.
We'll be searching for my ball, and he knows that I play like a Titleist 1 or 2 or 3 or something like that. And he'll go, and he'll find a ball, and he'll go, Titleist 2? And I go, yeah. And he goes, oh, not this one. This is a Shrixon 3. Every time. He loves it. It's like a fun game for him. So that's an amazing feeling when you think someone's found your ball, and then they go, no, it's someone else's. And just that 1-2 seconds, you're like, yes, now I can get to, and then, oh, no. And then you've got to start searching again. That's a horrible feeling. Especially, I was playing at the National the other day with a good friend of the podcast, DC, and the amount of balls that we found in the rough, like we were playing behind a 4 in carts, and we were keeping up with them until I started losing golf balls. And I think on 3 holes, I wiped 3 or actually, I wiped 4 in a row. The 4th one I wiped in a row with a 4 putt from 4 foot. But we lost time with the group in front as a 2-ball, following a 4-ball in cart, because I searched on 3 holes in a row. It was, and then I think even DC searched on the 4th hole. So we lost, 20 minutes, 5 minutes search times 4. No, we lost 12 minutes just like that. And so suddenly that group was a hole and a half ahead. We caught them on the 18th just, but it was amazing how you just start suddenly searching for balls and you can lose so much time. But I found there was one patch that I found 5 balls. DC found about 3 just in that one little patch. It was amazing.
Some pretty long grass there. You played Moona? Sorry, you played Moona?
Yeah, we played the Moona course, and every time we found a ball, is that your no? Is that is that oh? And you just it's a horrible feeling.
Yeah.
But
no one likes searching. No one likes searching for their golf ball.
The old Shrixon 3 trick, eh? Right.
You've outed me.
Next one. Here's a myth. This is probably one of the most common myths. That you can play. No, I'll leave that one for you. That you can play a provisional ball if you think your ball's gone into a penalty area. I've got to say it correctly. So the correct rule is you can play a provisional ball if you think you've lost your ball outside a penalty area, or you think your ball has gone out of bounds.
Correct.
If your ball has gone into the fairway, you can't play a provisional ball. If you know your ball has gone into a penalty area, you cannot play a provisional ball, and that's the myth. The myth is that you can play a provisional ball if your ball's gone into a penalty area, but you can't. Okay, so if there's 2 areas where your ball's gone to, a penalty area or a fairway, you cannot play a provisional ball. Okay, it's either in the fairway or it's in the penalty area. You can't play a provisional ball. So if there's 5 areas on the course, I can't even remember. I used to do this in a workshop, and I just can't even remember it now. But anytime you think your ball may be lost outside the penalty area or out of bounds, you can play a provisional ball. So if it's penalty area, fairway, or lost outside the penalty area, you can play a provisional ball. If it's penalty area, fairway, or out of bounds, you can play a provisional ball, because you've got out of bounds and that it may be out of bounds and that it may be lost outside a penalty area. Those are the only times that you can play a provisional ball. If it's definitely gone into, and people go, oh, well, it might be lost in the penalty area. Being lost in the penalty area and being in a penalty area is exactly the same thing. You can't play a provisional ball. It just means you might have the option of playing the ball as it lies. Same options for a penalty, no provisional ball, but you might have the option of playing the ball as it lies.
I think the only out with that one is when you are playing a course for the first time, and perhaps you don't know there's a penalty area over that hill down the left-hand side of the fairway, and you go, wow, there's some really thick grass down there. It could be lost. I'm playing a stroke round. I'll just hit a provisional. And you get down and go, oh, there's a penalty area here. But I guess then you didn't know there was thick grass outside the penalty area, so it could have been lost outside the penalty area. You were entitled to, or perhaps you get down there and there's no thick grass. It's just all hard, compacted ground. and you can't find, and it's clearly in the penalty area, well, you didn't know that penalty area was there. Pardon me.
Yeah, I mean, the out there that you speak of is when you're standing on the tee, you've got to make a decision, right? And if you don't know that there's a penalty area there, then you can't make the decision, oh, could it be lost in the penalty area? Because you just assume that there's no penalty area there. I think that's okay to assume that there's no penalty area there rather than to assume there is a penalty area there.
Yeah, absolutely.
But at the same time, you've got to use all the facts and all the evidence that you have. If you're standing on the tee, you hook the ball over the hill, and down the left-hand side from the tee and up to the top of the hill, as far as you can see, is a red line.
Yeah.
Then the facts in your mind are that there's a penalty area there.
Mm.
So you wouldn't be able to play a provisional ball unless someone tells you, oh, the penalty area stops at the top of the hill.
Yeah, just by chance. Yeah.
That would be pretty rough. That would be, and I don't mean that as a pun. It'd be ugly rough. But that would be a pretty tough situation. You'd want to ask someone, I guess. Have you played here before? Yes. Does the penalty area carry on over the hill? Yes, it does. Okay, you can't play a provisional ball.
It was there last time I played here 17 years ago. Yep, it was there.
Yeah, that's right. Well, you had that situation, one of your first refereeing jobs.
Yeah.
Where a player who knows that course was like, there's not usually a penalty area here.
Spot on. And it was put in there for the event. Yeah.
So it can happen. Right, your turn.
Well, this might be number one, surely.
Yeah, this is your favourite.
Well, it has to be right up there in the top 3 of most common myths. And that is, Blakey, is there anything you can say to make your ball lost? What are the exact words you need to say to make your ball lost?
The exact words you can say to make your ball lost are, I've searched for 3 minutes and I can't find it.
I think that's probably right. As opposed to, I'm going to declare that ball lost. Or I'm not going to search for it, forget it, that's lost. Or words to that effect. Must be so common. And I played with 2 young women who are both representatives of their club playing at pennant level, Division 1, and we're on the 4th hole at a course you and I played, and left, and I've come back over helping someone through a penalty area and come over the other side of the fairway, said, oh, have you played that one, or are you going to, oh no, she's already declared it lost. Okay, wow, you are a scratch golfer playing Division 1 club level pennant representative, and you say that to me. And I had to lecture them for the next minute. I say, you can't, there's nothing you can say.
Why don't you
it's
just
such a common myth.
Why don't you just send them the Charlie Hull video?
Oh, yeah. The in Dubai, was it, at night time? Or somewhere exotic like that?
I was thinking it might have even been Saudi because it's got those big lights and stuff.
Right. But just, it's okay. Oh, I've got the ball here. No, it's all right. I've already declared it lost. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Well, that's not the case.
Just send them that video.
Talking about that with Marcela before, there's nothing you can say. We know there's no obligation to search, but there's nothing you can say to make it lost. As you say, it's only lost when it hasn't been found after 3 minutes of you searching for it. And as we know, that search time, that 3 minutes, only starts when you begin searching. So if you played a provisional like Marcela, and just go up to the putting green and, you mark the ball and lift it from the green, and then a ball is found, Marcela will go, no, I hit that ball 10 minutes ago. But the referee is going to say, yeah, but you haven't begun searching for it. So your 3 minutes hasn't started yet. And we haven't made a stroke at that provisional at a spot closer to the hole than where the original is estimated to be. So you still have an obligation to search for it. Sorry to add that complexity.
No, I was just going to add, if you start the search, or your caddy or your partner in a 4-ball or your partner's caddy.
Correct.
They're the only 4 people that can start the search.
Start that search time.
And if the search hasn't been started, then the ball can technically still be found, as you said, until the provisional has been hit from a spot closer to the hole.
Yeah, you put another ball into play. So the original is now a wrong ball. Yep.
Yeah.
Very common myth, though. It's just, I don't know how many times you or I have said to people, You cannot declare your ball lost. We're going to say it again right now. You can't do it.
Now, and one of the Clubland stories, so we're semi-covered the Clubland story that's in there, was about declaring a ball lost as well. So hopefully, yeah, listening to that. And I think it was a case of sending it in, trying to tell someone else that they're wrong, which is true. But the interesting thing is you can declare it unplayable and go and take stroke and distance. But you can't if you can't. But you have to do that after you found it. No, that's not right. So you can declare it unplayable. So you can just go, okay. But if you've played a provisional, that's what I'm trying to say. If you've played a provisional, you can't declare it lost and just go and play the provisional. If it's found that provisional's within the 3 minutes, that provisional is not the ball in play. And then you'd have to go back, or you'd use one of your options under the unplayable. But if you can always proceed under stroke and distance. So if you hit it in a terrible lie, or in a position that you think will have a terrible lie, you can just stroke and distance right now. You're not playing a provisional ball, and then you've declared your ball lost by dropping it.
Well, you've taken your ball out of play, is what you've done.
That's right. You've taken that one out of play. You've put this one into play by dropping it in the fairway or hitting it off the tee. Remember, it's not enough just to tee it up. You have to hit it on the tee or drop it in the fairway.
But if you drop it in the fairway, yeah, it's in play.
Yeah. Right. Removing water on the green. Myth number 5. Removing water on the green. You can't. It's like it's a condition. It's a natural force, and water on the green is an abnormal course condition. But you're not allowed to remove it unless the committee allow you to through a local rule. But if you're just playing in your normal clubland game and a little bit of rain comes down, or more likely the situation is there's dew on the green. That's normally more likely when it's going to happen. There's dew on the green, a little bit of frost, and you just try and get rid of it. That is not allowed. You're not allowed to improve your conditions.
If it improves one of your conditions affecting the stroke, which in this case I assume is your line of play.
Yeah, correct. So
it's one of those umbrella conditions. Improvements you're made that you actually cannot avoid the penalty by restoring. You can't put all the water back and go, I've fixed it, I've restored it. You actually can't do that.
So myth number 5: removing water on the green. You're not allowed to do it. Is or people think that you can do. So the myth is that you can do it. That is incorrect. Now you are allowed to do it in the teeing area. That's the only place you can do it. You can't do it on the fairway. You can't do it in the penalty area. Can't do it on the green. The teeing area is okay, but the myth was that you could do it on the green, and that's not correct.
What if you've had that downpour, as you say, and play has not been, committee haven't suspended play yet? What do I do if I've got water on my line of play and I need to putt? What can I do?
So it is an ACC, so you can take free relief under 16.1D, and that position, you place it at the nearest position where you avoid that condition, and that could be off the green. If there is no position, then it's point of maximum available relief. And in that case, if you're looking for a point of maximum available relief, you should probably get on the phone to the committee and say,
we've got a problem.
This green's unplayable.
Yeah.
That's probably your best bet. Right, myth number 6, Stuart.
Press down divot. Is that the one?
Yeah, that's the one.
So the myth is you can press down divots?
Yes.
I assume.
Improve your conditions.
I was going to say you certainly cannot. You can press down divots as much as you want unless it improves one of your conditions affecting the stroke or the conditions for another player. So you cannot press down divots if it improves one of your cats. And we know the cats, the conditions affecting the stroke, lie of the ball, area of intended stance, area of intended swing, the relief area we can drop the ball, and line of play. So if by doing that improves one of those, so provides you an advantage, then that's the breach.
So you're not
That's
on
breach of 8.1.
You're not on Instagram as much as I am, and so this is a very common video posted by the hackers of the world, where they make a divot right beside their ball in playing the stroke or in trying to make a stroke. And then it's either folded over the ball or it's beside it so that it sort of lifts the ball up slightly, or it's just the divot gets in the way and they just tap down the divot or unfold the divot, do things that they obviously, as you said, the myth is that you can do that, and that's not correct. And as well as if you've got you're putting from off the green, and there's a divot on your line, you're not allowed to go and try and recover it up or put a divot in the hole, or the divot might be slightly out of its position. You're not actually allowed to move it at all until you're away from that situation. That's not going to affect your cats, your condition affecting the stroke.
And that's another thing, that if you do it and a player says, I don't think you can do that, you can't restore it. You can't avoid the penalty.
No, that's right. I actually had to give a penalty for this in Fiji. A guy had his ball, and it was an area where a lot of balls were collecting. Someone had tried to replace a divot, and it was not too bad the way they replaced it. A little bit poking out, and then this guy's just ripped the divot out and thrown it away. And another player's gone, I don't think you can do that. And so he's called me over. I'm like, what's going on? Oh, yeah, you can't do that. That's a penalty. He's like, one shot. I go, two.
One shot. Disqualification.
So he was really gutted about that. I mean, as you would, flying all the way to Fiji and then getting a 2-shot penalty.
For such a simple action, took him 3 seconds, didn't even think about it.
Yeah, didn't even think about it. Number 7. And this, we've only got 7 today, but I'm sure we'll be able to get more, as I said, in another episode of myths. Staff working in a bunker makes it automatic GUR. That's incorrect. So for the staff working in a bunker, which happens, and I know it's not something that you would try and have happen during a championship or a board event, that type of thing, but it does happen, and it can happen on a Tuesday, it can happen on even on a Friday morning when the superintendent and his team are trying to get the course ready for the weekend. So it definitely can happen. How do they need to show that the bunker is GUR if they want to give players free relief? They need to put a stake in there, or they need to draw a line around it, or put some rope around it, whatever. You're not going to draw a line with some paint, because that it would take a long time, a couple of weeks to get rid of that. So just put a stake in there showing that it's GUR. And I know that changes the course as they go from bunker to bunker, but the rules do allow that, because we do still need the superintendent and his team to do course work. I mean, that's one of the toughest jobs, is trying to work on the course while golfers are playing. I mean, golfers are the bane of a greenkeeper's existence, but they do pay his wage, so he needs to look after them. But it's not enough just for workers to have a rake to be in the bunker, working on the bunker to make it GUR. Did I say that as clearly as I could?
Yeah, and the other option also is the committee can adopt a local rule that just blanket, whenever there is a member of the ground staff working in a bunker, it is out of play.
I disagree.
Because our club has it.
I think that they need to put some kind of stake in the bunker, because just saying a person from the greenkeeping staff is working on a bunker, in my mind, doesn't make it GUR. Because what if that person who works on the greenkeeper staff is playing on the Saturday and plays in there and he's raking the bunker? Does that make it GUR?
No,
because he's not working in his capacity as a staff member. Well,
Well, the words do say it a lot better than what I just said it.
I still think that they need to put a stake in there. They need to identify it, and then they can go to another bunker and remove the stake, and the bunker now becomes GUR again. Not GUR again. Removes its identity as not genuine area. Removes its identity as GUR. But if you want the bunker that the staff are working in to be GUR, they need to put a stake in there, or some identifier. It can't just be. I'm not sure about that local rule just saying if people are working in this bunker, it automatically becomes GUR. Clarification for that one. Right, you're at the New South Wales. Oh, actually, first of all, if you do have any other myths, make sure you send them in to us. Where people think that this is the rule of golf, but it's not actually the rule of golf. Send them in to us. Write that down in the Google form, and we look forward to hearing them and getting them out on the podcast. Now, Stuart, you're at the New South Wales Open on the weekend, all 4 days. How was it?
All 4 days. Well, as I said, it was very warm, very hot, 38 degrees Celsius. I think that tips over 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and very hot winds that we know that part of the world can experience. But apart from that, and that kept the crowds down a bit on Saturday, but great crowds on Sunday, good play, winning scores, 20 under. It was great, and plenty of rulings, plenty of chatter on the radio about pace of play. Pace of play was generally very good, except for the last 1 or 2 groups on the weekend. And we did have to monitor them. We did have to talk to them, walk with them, ride with them, time their shots. And as you know, I've discussed, it had an immediate impact. And after 3 holes, when they're back in position, back on time, we drive off, and sure enough, they put the handbrake on back again and start going through their second, pre-shot routine and take 2 minutes. So that was always interesting to keep on top of that. But all very good, and certainly plenty of rulings and plenty of rules situations for us to discuss.
What were the most exciting rulings that you gave for the week?
I don't know if any were that exciting. Probably the most unfortunate one was the disqualification after round 1.
Oh yeah, what was that for?
Which, so this is after day 1, so I'm in my hotel room, and the tournament coordinator from the PGA rings me, and as soon as he told me what had happened, I immediately thought disqualification. He then provided a bit of background and context, but I'm just thinking, no, this is disqualification. While I'm on the phone to him, the tournament director's ringing me from a room 50 metres away to also discuss it with me. And so the situation was as follows. So the player, the simple scenario is, for the 18th hole, there was a 4 as his score for that hole, and he actually had a 5. And he signed that scorecard. That's the simple, the nuts and bolts of it. That's the simple what happened, explanation of what happened. Put down a 4, actually had a 5, signed for it. Where the grey area, if there was any grey area, it was a par 71. And so the scorecard return are going through his scores and adding them all up, and they've gone, so it was a par 71. And they've gone, you've had 71 today? And he's gone, yep, 71, that's correct. And he's signed it, and then he's left, and they've gone, hang on, oh, no, it should have been a 70, not a 71. No, that's 70. I'll change that, 70. Now, had the player been there in the first place and the recorders had gone, so you've had a 70 today, the players know, you know this as well as I do, the players know exactly what they had. They know how much over or under they are. As soon as, if the scorers had gone, oh, you've had a 70 today, he would have said straight away, no, that's not right. I've shot even today. I've had a 71. And we would have gone through and he would have sorted out what the problem was. So from a addition error, they've gone, you've had 71 today? He's gone, yeah, that's right. Signed it off. And they've gone, oh, actually, I should have said 70. So that was the issue. And as I said, the bottom line was, beside the 18th hole was a score for the 18 was a 4, and he actually had a 5, and he signed for it. And nobody wants to disqualify a player, unless it's serious misconduct and you've punched someone, But no one wants to kick a player out of a tournament. And we were trying to find a way of keeping him in the tournament because in the back of our minds, we knew he was gone. He was disqualified. So the tournament director rang the tournament director from the Australian Open, whom you and I know both very well. I rang you late at night. I'm sorry. Is there something we can get him out of this because of a committee issue? From a scorer's return, have told him 71. It should have been they should have added up 70. Is there something we can keep him in this tournament with? And we're scratching our heads and going, no. So that was unfortunate. So the tournament director obviously then had to make a phone call to that player and say, sorry.
You obviously didn't see how the player took it because he was in his hotel room.
Right. And late at night. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. That's, well, you just got to make sure you count your score, basically.
And you'd like to think, unfortunate as it is, it's like that issue I had at the tournament a month ago where the guy picked up his provisional, but his provisional was a ball in play. So I had to dock him another one penalty. So I don't think he'll make that mistake again. I don't think this player will make that mistake again. So clearly the marker has written in a 4 beside 18. And, he's gone, he should have checked, he should have gone 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 3, 4. He should have done that. He should have got to 18 and gone 4. No, I had a 5. Bang.
Yeah. Well, especially with the way that the cards are designed, you actually rip off your chip and then you can put it exactly against the score and so it's pretty hard to see how they muck that up. But
and unfortunate.
If you're a recorder as well, you sort of want to make sure you add the thing up right. I mean, you're only there for one job. So, an unfortunate series of stuff-ups.
The next one, go on, sorry.
Well, I had a couple sent through to me from similar tournament. A guy took a free relief from a sprinkler head and went to use his broomstick putter as his club length. And the rules actually say longest club in the bag except your putter. So the player was a bit surprised about this. And then another one, pro hits it in a red penalty area, they agree on, the referee and the player agreed on the point of entry, last point of entry, and said, "You got everything?" And he goes, "Yep." The referee drives off, looks around, and the guy's measuring his nearest point of relief plus a club length. It's just ridiculous.
So this is from the same event I was at just then?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Player hits his ball in a red penalty area, and the partner tells him that he can take opposite margin drop. That used to be a rule from before 2019. Now it can be a rule if the committee adopts it as a local rule for certain holes. It wasn't in for this tournament. You can confirm that.
It wasn't, no, correct.
And the partner was very, very surprised when the referee told him. So now this one might be the one that you were going to talk about. If a ball rotates, has it moved? So you want to paint the picture, Stuart?
Good. I had a few more to tackle before this one. This is a player's ball sitting just on the edge of a leaf, and the player has a loose impediment, and the player just saw it just sitting underneath his ball, and he's gone to remove the leaf and believe his ball has done something, right? It's moved in some sense of the word, and called in a referee. And this was all sorted out post. This is at the scorecard return. It ended up being resolved. It came down to the definition of the word moved under the rules of golf. And we know the definition of moved under the rules of golf is different to what you would see in an English dictionary. And under the rules of golf, moved is comes to rest on another spot. And what the player described to me was effectively the ball is sitting on the ground just on the edge of the leaf. And as he's removed the leaf, it's almost as if you've ripped a tablecloth out from underneath all the crockery and the glassware, and all the crockery and the glassware has stayed there, right? Because you've ripped out the tablecloth as quick as that. Because what he said to me was the ball effectively rotated one dimple. So as a motion of removing the leaf, it's just rotated. So in other words, his pink dot on the top of the ball was like that, and all of a sudden it's just off 2 millimeters. So he saw that and goes, "Oh, what do I do now?" And afterwards, we took a long time. We're on the ground, basically on my knees, and he's showing me this. And we effectively said, "Did the ball move?" And he said it didn't come to rest on another spot. It didn't go somewhere else, but it rotated one dimple of a golf ball. And I said, if it hasn't come to, and he said to me, and you take this as a grain of salt, this guy doesn't have any history in my book so far as trying to flirt the rule, go around the rules. He said to me, I have moved my ball before in other events, and I've always called a penalty on myself. He said, this case, the ball rotated one dimple, but it didn't move somewhere else. So that was, and, I'm looking under, loose impediments 15.1. I'm looking under the definition of moved. I'm looking under rule 9.4b. I'm looking for something that says the ball hasn't come to rest on another spot, but it's did he touch the ball deliberately? No, he didn't touch the ball at all. Never touched it. He's touched the loose impediment. So I rang the tournament director on the phone and we spoke about this. We took a long time because it was something that I probably hadn't come across before. But I'm trying to work through, as I said, 9.4, 15.1, the definition of moved, and we couldn't see anything in there that says, just the information we had available based on rules, we couldn't see anything there that said that's a one-stroke penalty. So that was the scenario for that particular one. Now, he was afraid. So what happened on the spot, on the time, was the player then said to the referee, so do I need to put the ball back? And the referee said, well, no, you don't. And the player's going, well, sort of, why am I getting the penalty there if the ball hasn't moved? If the ball had moved, I would have to put it back. I don't want to get a two-stroke penalty, from playing from a wrong place. So that was his concern as well. So straight away, I was able to tell him, look, forget the two strokes. You're working under the direction of the referee. So don't worry about that. You'll get out of jail for that. But we just need to work out if it's no penalty or one penalty stroke. It's the same.
What did you end up with?
No penalty.
I find it very hard to believe that the ball hasn't come to rest on another spot.
Me too, but from what he described to me, correct, but what he described to me, I had nothing to base on that it's come to rest on another spot. He was adamant. It didn't move. It didn't go somewhere else. It rotated one dimple. Have a look how close the dimples are in a golf ball. That's not a lot.
Yeah, but still to see it do that.
Yeah.
And all it has to do is move less than half a dimple.
Correct, but it didn't.
To be considered.
I think from the player's perspective, good on him for sort of standing his ground as well. So like I was called over, I was on the 18th or something, or 16th green or something, and over the radio, hey, we need a rules guy in the scorers. So I was sent over, and good on him for sort of going, I still don't think this is right. I just want to clarify this. So good on the player for sort of standing by, sticking by his guns and going, now, can we just sort this out, please?
What was more important probably to me was that the marker and the playing partners were in agreement that the ball didn't move, and they were happy to sign the scorecard. So it all comes back to this player's honesty and integrity, but at the same time, if the marker is happy to sign the scorecard and the other players in the group don't think anything was done wrong, then we're never going to know. And that part of that time of the tournament, they're probably not going to be, they're going to be competitive when it comes to that type of thing. But they were happy for it to move on. Then the right decision was probably gotten to at the end.
The other two players hung around. because they were interested and they were hanging around, whether it was support or curiosity, but they hung around. They didn't, as the marker didn't sign it and sort of leave. Pardon me, the marker was still there. The third player was still there. They were trying to get in my ear as well a bit, but they were all saying, they were just repeating the same thing. Anyway, that was, just a situation, and I just had to come back to, the definition of moved, rule 9.4, 15.1, et cetera, et cetera. And just try to gather as much information. And the fact that I was down on my knees on the ground outside the scorer's tent, with the player and a ball and a leaf, and he's showing me what happened, that's just gathering the facts and trying to work out, the best outcome. And I like your point about, the other players there, because I had another situation where a marker of a player wasn't so happy with the ruling that I gave, because he was that, we don't use the term fellow competitor, but he was competing against that other player. And he wasn't happy with, he felt I gave him a good deal, So he was filthy with me and stormed off, mumbling under his breath, because he was competing against that other player. In this particular case, they were going, no, it's just didn't move. We're all okay with it. Yeah.
Do you have any others?
Okay. I've got plenty, but I think time might beat us. But, I've got a few more. Let's talk about this one in particular, where the marker stormed off mumbling under his breath. I could see it from a distance. I could see them looking. So I'm going, right, stopwatch on, down I drive, and there's a massive penalty area. I said, is it your ball? I said to this first guy. So, yeah, it's my ball. I said, can you tell me what happened? He goes, yep, there's the tee. It's come right past this tree here. And this is the line right here. And of course, what's 5 meters behind us? Massive penalty area, right? Bigger than an Olympic-sized swimming pool, right? Or two. It was just huge penalty area right behind me. What's on the ground around us? Nothing. No grass, just bare, hard as a rock, bare earth, right? Nowhere where a ball could be lost. I said, where did it, could be stuck in a tree? Is it no, he said, no, it's flown right past, halfway up that tree there, just come around to the left of that, would have landed somewhere here and gone in. I said, oh, well, we've got to have this standard and I'm virtually certain. So we looked he was happy to have a look, keep looking. We're looking up and down, nowhere to be seen, clear as day where it was. And I said, that's fine. You just need to estimate the point where it last crossed. And are you happy with your options? I can run you through those if you want. The marker who had just played says to me, we have to be virtually certain, right? I said, yeah, but so he's explained to me the ball flight, and we've worked out it's probably landed within this area right here. And what's right behind us? Massive penalty area. And excuse me, you could tell he was not happy because he was competing against the player. He thought he had to return to the tee. And a line that I've now used twice, 2 Sundays in a row, last week at the Riversdale Cup, it worked. And I said it again to this player, and I didn't say it with any attitude. I just said to him, you tell me where else that ball could be. And when the player turns around and walks away, it's like you've got them. It's like another form of concession, right? They've conceded.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it is. It's gotcha. I said that word for word. I said, you tell me where else that ball could be. Now, if he had said, well, it could have been in that bush, it could be in all that grass over there, then I'm going, yeah, that's fair. Now I'm not at 95%. Right? We're at 90, 85, 80, 50%, right? You've got me. But when they walk away, you go, mate, I think they're accepting. And then as he's walking away, mumbling, mumble, turns around, oh, what happened to my lost ball on the other hole the other day? I'm going, well, there's no penalty area over there. That's different. And I'll be mumbles.
You had words or had a situation with him a day before?
No, it's just obviously Eddie's ball right or something off the 11th, and they didn't find it, so he had to proceed under stroke and distance.
Right. Okay.
And it was an out of bounds fence here, but there's no penalty area, so there's nowhere else it could be. If you haven't found it, there's only one course of action. In this particular case, this is when I messaged you and I said, no, not virtually certain, has reared its ugly head again.
If a ball is lost outside a penalty area or out of bounds, it's exactly the same situation.
And there's no penalty area within 500 metres, then there's only one course of action. But when
that's right,
the information that player described to me, and right behind me is more than Olympic-sized swimming pool water, surrounded by red stakes, I think we're pretty comfortable with where that ball is.
Did that person
Sorry.
Just one second. That marker or another player, did they actually disagree with the line?
No. Oh, so this is what I come back before. We're talking about competitors. So this marker, as we're starting to search, he said, "Oh, I thought it hit this tree and kicked left. I thought I saw that."
Right.
And we're going left. Okay, that's all fairway. Like there was a little pot bunker, it wasn't in there, and then there was fairway, and there was no long grass. So I'm going, well, we're sort of going, well, where is it? And then eventually goes, oh no, I probably saw something else, you know. And I've seen that now twice at this event where a player's gone, oh, I think I saw it to hit that tree and move away from the penalty area.
Okay.
It's almost to go, that's going to get it below 95%. I'm competing against this person. I can tell you the other player as well. I won't, but I can tell you afterwards who said this. It's almost getting that 95% and moving it below. So the referee's going to, or the player's going to have no option but to proceed on a stroke and distance because they are competing against them. Rather than dropping down here for 3, they've got to go back to the tee for 3. This player in this situation, the marker goes, oh yeah, I reckon I hit that tree and went left to take away that virtual certainty.
Was the tree in the penalty area?
No.
And it couldn't be lost up the tree?
No. The way he described it, he said, went right past this tree, halfway up the tree, and it would have landed right here. And around me was lots of gum trees, which of course have no foliage at the bottom. And you have to go up 10 metres before you see any leaves or branches coming out. So nowhere else that ball could have been.
Okay.
I'm as convinced as I was at the Riversdale Cup a week earlier. You know, there's nowhere else that ball could have been. And when you say to that player, where else can be, and they turn around and walk off, as you say, gotcha. Like, give me an out here. Give me a reason to drop below 95%.
Yeah.
That's effectively what you're trying to do.
Another
one with known or virtual.
You got one more?
Yeah, another one with known or virtual certainty. I've got a few more, but this involved another referee, but who came and spoke to me afterwards about it because ball's gone over a bunker, left into the fairway, into the rough, gone down there, couldn't find it. But in the time from hitting the tee shot to getting, they've seen a cart or two drive across the fairway. And when they couldn't find it, the player's gone, oh, clearly one of those players over there, one of those people over there has picked up my ball. It's been moved by an outside influence, right? It's not there anymore because someone's picked it up. The players and the referee, I don't remember, but at least the player has called out to those people, did you pick up a ball somewhere here? And they've gone, no, haven't touched the ball. They asked them a second time after an interval, did you pick up a ball from this area? No, we didn't pick up the ball. Couldn't find it. Referee gets called in. Hey, I think my ball's been picked up by someone. It should be in here in the rough, right? It should be over here. It's been picked up by someone. And the referee, rightly, 100% correctly, said we need to be known or virtually certain that your ball has been lifted by someone or taken away by an animal or moved by an outside influence, right? It is a high standard. It's a very high standard we need to reach. And from the information you've just presented, are we at 95%? We're not talking about fairway. We're talking about left rough, grass, trees, that sort of stuff. Could be down an animal hole, could be anywhere. And the referee said, no. Now, of course, unfortunately, the player and the other two have gone, they're in massive disagreement. That's BS, et cetera, et cetera. And I say this just from the art of refereeing. Of course, that referee now 100% sure of the ruling they've just given are now 99% sure because you've had such opposition and such fierce, that's BS, really aggressive, that's wrong, et cetera, et cetera. We're all human, and that's enough to plant that 1% seed of doubt in your mind, right, when they respond like that. And so the player just spoke to someone and goes, I'm right, am I? Just that I'm right and 100% right. Known or virtually certain? No, not known or virtually certain. Especially when you ask that group that drove across the fairway twice, did you pick up a ball? No. So it was an unusual one, but
the fun situation starts when you have to take that player who just yelled it was aggressive back to the tee to take straight.
I have a feeling they rejected that offer.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm almost certain. Hey, I can take you back. No, I'm okay, thanks.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Oh well.
I've got a quick one talking about taking a player back to the tee.
Keep going.
This is hole 2, day 1. Very, very early. This is like not even 7:30 yet. Sun is like quite low, still coming through the beautiful gum trees. It was quite a scene. But day one, hole 2, guy hits ball way left, not way left, just, drew just a little bit too much into the left trees, played a provisional. I see them searching. I start the stopwatch. I come over and help with the search. And I know this player. I've seen him before at other events. And I said, look, I had the stopwatch. I might have been a little bit late, but we're at 2 minutes now. We're at 2.5 minutes now. Look, that's it. We're done, right? I said, would you like a ride back? Oh, sorry, before that, I said, is the provisional in here as well? And he said, yeah, it's in this. It was left as well. I said, okay. So in my mind, we're searching for both balls at the same time. I said, look, that's 3 minutes. I'm happy to give you a ride back to the tee. He goes, yeah, okay. And of course, he's unhappy. Hole 2 of day one. So he jumps in my cart. Tournament directors come over as well, help with the search. Jumps in my cart. I do a U-turn. I start heading back towards the tee, 270 metres back. And he goes, oh, just stop here, he says. I'm going, what? He goes, oh, my provisional's in here. I'm thinking, was he run out of balls already? Like, he just want to try to get another ball. And of course, he's already jumped out of the cart before I even brought it to a halt. And he's walked off. I said, sorry, what are you doing? He said, I'm searching for my provisional. I said, hang on, like, I expected to drop him back off at the tee. No, he just wanted me to ride him back to, he says, oh, no, it was about 50 metres short. So, of course, in my head now is search time for original and provisional when they're on opposite sides of the fairway compared to being in the rough same area. So I turn around to the tournament director, who's about 50 metres away from me. He's seen this player hop out and now starting to searching. And I've gone like this, put my hands up, what's he doing? And I've gone over to him and said, mate, if these are roughly in the same area, our 3 minutes covers both. But he was convinced. He said, oh, different areas, right? I said, yeah, but you've walked 100 metres along this area here looking for the ball. You've definitely captured the area where your original and provisional are going to be. And he didn't find either. And pretty quickly I said, I think we need to go back to the tee, mate. Like,
pretty
it was
quickly,
just unusual.
You said you need to just walk straight to the clubhouse and keep going.
What I was so pleased with is he made a birdie with his third ball off the tee. So he ended up with a 7 and he made the cut.
No.
So I saw him Saturday morning at breakfast. I said, remember day 1, hole 2? He goes, yeah, I made 7. Made a birdie with a third ball off the tee, and I made the cut. I said, he's just so happy. I said, that's awesome. That's awesome insane. That he, after 2 holes, and he bogeyed the first. So he's 4 over after 2 holes.
Yeah.
And the cut was, I think, -3, and he's made the cut. And I thought that was fantastic.
What a fight back.
Yeah, good on him. 34 holes, and he took care of business.
Any others, Stuart?
Oh, yeah, probably a few. You had one about beyond a boundary wall, something you'd seen on Twitter. You wanted to...
Oh, no. There was one of the PGA Tour pros. Oh, no, he's now turned commentator. He's gone from being a player. He posted something about it's the course side edge of a line or something like this. And I put on Twitter, this will even more blow your mind. He was saying, oh, this is the first time I'd ever heard of this thing. I said, this will even more blow your mind. If a wall defines the boundary, then it's beyond the wall, makes it out of bounds. The ball's got to be beyond it. So if the ball's on top of the wall, it's in bounds. And DH from Doug, who also does a golf podcast, said, no, that's incorrect. It's the course side. And the course side of the wall is what defines out of bounds. And I said, I'm just going off what our local rule is on the Asian Tour. And I think most of the tours, shouldn't assume, most of the tours use beyond the wall as the out of bounds. So it's a weird thing because when we think of a fence, we think of the inside of the posts. When we think of stakes, we think of the inside of the stakes or the course side of the post, course of the stakes. Yeah. When we think of a wall, it's just that sort of traditional thing where wall defines the property, and thinking of those old Scottish courses, and it's beyond the wall that is out of bounds. And so on our hard card, and as I said, I assume that most of the tours adopt this, it's beyond the wall. So you've got to be on the other side. All of your ball must be outside the wall to be out of bounds. And he said, no, Doug was like, the default, in my thinking, the default is the course side. If nothing is said on the local rules, it's the course side. And then I was like, oh, okay. And then he came back to me and he said, no, I've checked with the USGA again, and they said there is no default, which is hilarious. So if there is a wall, if the committee doesn't say anything about that wall, then it's play two balls in a stroke play situation, basically. Because if there's nothing said on the local rules about which side of the wall is the out of bounds, if a ball is fully on top of it, it could be in bounds, it could be out of bounds. So if you're the committee and you have a wall going around your border, your property, then make sure you define whether you want it to be the inside or the outside of the wall. That is the line. If you, an even better situation, if you put stakes on the inside, then it's not the wall at all, it's the stakes. Okay? Unless you say the stakes identify and the wall defines or something like that. But if you put the stakes without any local rule, they would define the out of bounds, and they would be the inside of the stakes. Again, I say if you don't write a local rule, you should always write a local rule to define the out of bounds or the property of the course. So that was an interesting one that we're just having a bit of a debate on Twitter about. That's me, done. We'll cover off all the rest of the Clubland stories next week in episode 84. Have we got a GRQOTW for 83, Stuart?
We do. GRQ, this is you and I playing a match. So we know how match is going to end up. But anyway,
yeah,
GRQOTW for episode 83. Blakey and Stuart are playing a match in the men's final of the Wombat Hills Cup. During play of the 9th hole, Blakey becomes aware that Stuart may have played from a wrong place on the 4th hole. However, at the time, Stuart thought that he could take relief. What options are available to Blakey? This has happened on the 4th hole. Is it too late to request a ruling? Does the whole stand as played? Can he request a ruling at any time before the end of the match? What can he do, if anything?
And it was unknown to me that you'd played from a wrong place on the 4th.
May have played from a wrong place. Yeah, I took relief from something, and yeah, you didn't know.
So say you took relief from vehicle tyre tracks.
Right.
And they weren't very deep. They were very shallow. So you've taken a drop, and I didn't know this was going on. You've played out the hole. You haven't told me that you could have incurred a penalty, and then we get to the 9th hole, and now I find out.
Because I actually told you about, you and I just chatting, we chat away as we're playing, and I told you about it, and you've gone, I didn't know that at the time. But I didn't tell you until the 9th hole, and this happened on the 4th. So
what are my options?
Yeah, if any.
Okay. Good one. Well, thank you very much, Podcast McPhee. And we need to catch up and play a game of golf soon, so we'll try and do that next week sometime.
Look forward to it.
As well as another podcast, of course, on Clubland Stories. So thank you, everyone, for listening or watching. And, if you've got any Clubland stories, get them onto the Google form. I'll put the link in the show notes for this podcast. But thank you, everyone. Thank you, Stuart.
Pleasure.